Greetings, Earthlings, humans, Nephilim, clones. What are some of the other things they say? Aliens,
Anunnaki, right?
Anunnaki. Whatever you got, you're welcome here. Today's going to be the blowout of all blowouts. It's the show I think that I wanted to do my whole life. And I want to say right now, my eventual goal is to have no fans. Because no fans at all, because that would mean to me that I didn't compromise and I spoke the truth when I knew it, because it's important to me, and that my ego would be totally dead then. What? Because I really still want people to like me. But anyway.
What if they like you because you're authentic and you're telling the truth? Are you going to reject that, or is that a bonus?
Well, real recognize real. Welcome to the Roseanne Barr podcast.
Oh, you see, my patience is growing thin.
Oh boy, I'm so excited. Get ready to have your mind blown and your soul opened. I hope that's the intention we have on the show. I have my good friend. I've wanted him on the show forever. And I'm glad, because I feel like this is the time. I felt that when Trump won. This is the time to bring on my friend, Billy Phillips. Hi, Billy.
All right, Roseanne.
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Billy Phillips, let me just say, is a teacher of...
a student.
A student. Yeah, I don't like...
I'm not a teacher.
No, that's how I feel too. Okay, he's a fellow student of Torah and all related items, right? Everything Judaic and everything of... I guess it's just like, meta-Judaism, right?
The hidden, deeper soul level.
Yes.
Of Torah.
What a great way to say it. Now, I'm trying to think of where to jump in, because there's so many openings. I like what you said when we first started studying with Rav Berg, who was our teacher. And remember when we went there and we felt like all Jews feel, that it's our duty to wake up other Jews. Remember how that's like RNA in Jews. You've got to wake up the other Jews. Remember? And we asked the Rav, how do we do that? Remember? Say what he said.
Well, I'll tell you what the Rav told me.
Yeah.
He said, forget the Jews. They're stiff-necked. They're stubborn. This is not me speaking, the cause of all chaos in the world throughout history. And we must bring these secrets of Torah, which have the ability to remove chaos, for Christians, for Muslims, for Hindus, for atheists, for every living, walking human being. And that's our job. And we failed at it, and that's why chaos persists. So he said, your job, what I have to do is get those secrets and bring them, to as many people as possible. The Jews will come at the end. Just before Messiah comes, the Jews will show up at the end, and they'll finally give in when they see, wow, the Christians are adopting it. The Muslims are connecting to it, because it's a universal wisdom. It's not about Jews.
Yeah.
It's a universal wisdom that empowers and makes a Christian a better Christian, a Muslim a better Muslim, a Hindu a better Hindu,
an atheist a better atheist.
Human being.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the greatest thing. I loved when he would talk about nanotechnology too. And you do that.
Yes. So yeah, because what was really unique, and the reason why these secrets of the Torah are able to be understood today over the last 20, 30 years, is because science gave us the language to explain these, what was once called esoteric concepts or mysticism, when in fact it's just science. So when we understand now a little bit about quantum physics and the theory of relativity, and we understand nanotechnology, we have the language, which hopefully we'll talk about today a little bit, to explain and disseminate the secrets of life. Yeah. From a spiritual, metaphysical, and physical standpoint, all encompassing.
Because life, like I was telling people the other day, all wars are won and lost on the mental plane
Absolutely.
first,
Absolutely.
before it becomes physical, right? Because wars are fought for hearts and minds so that the people will then consent to be governed. And that's like so many nefarious levels of ways they can use mind control and programming against us.
I would alter that from a Kabbalistic Zohar perspective. I would say wars are fought to satiate the human ego.
Well,
And
that's
the
the
hearts
deeper
and
thing.
minds is the tactics used to achieve that victory.
Oh, I love it. That's
It all comes
That's
down
good.
to human greed, an insatiable desire to want to receive as much power and light, because everything is light. Everything is the force that radiates from what we call God. But we either draw that light for ourselves alone because of there's a negative force within us called the opponent by design for free will, which we can get into, or we resist that desire and we share a little bit with other people as well, because realizing we're all in the same team, we're all in the same boat, and that's a lesson that was designed to take 6,000 years to learn, lifetime after lifetime. So it is a process. Free will is the key to everything, and because there's free will, we get tested. So the wars of history have been fought because, one, limited resources on the planet, which is an illusion, because
right.
God is infinite. If you just
Right.
tap into true reality, infinite resources, no one does without. But the Rav taught me, I want to be careful what I say here, but the human ego is so good at its job that it's not enough. That if I have, it's not enough. I don't want you to have.
Any.
Yeah. And that's what we have to get rid of. And when you get rid of that, and we truly realize the ego is the enemy, and the ego, what's the ego? The word Satan, triggers people, right? It sounds religious, it sounds crazy. And for other people, no, it's real. The first time the word Satan came into existence was in the Torah.
Right.
And the word is the adversary, the opponent, and its proper pronunciation is the Satan, right? And he's an opponent, he's an adversary, he's a force of consciousness within us that when we know something is bad for us, right, we do it anyways. Where does that thought come from? When we know something's beneficial, we know it's good, we don't want to do it, we procrastinate, we put it off. Where does that voice come from? We wake up in the morning.
I say it's always like people who say one thing and then do the exact like say they are a believer in loving kindness and then be a cutthroat bitch.
1,000%.
Right?
And then the person who they're being a bitch to says, this guy's a cutthroat bitch. But we both don't realize the one who's the victim of being of the bitch and he's the bitchy. Then we're not realizing, we're not outing the Satan. So we end up fighting each other, and Satan plays both sides against the middle, and that's why human beings are in conflict, and that's why we're not in a world yet of infinite resources, infinite pleasure, and the end of death. And that's
Yes.
him making us say, that's bullshit. You can't end death. That's also the Satan in everybody's head.
Ma, we always say, well, you always say, I don't necessarily agree with you, but you say animals are smarter and better than humans.
Of course they are.
I will tell you one thing. The industry that affects us, the pharmaceutical industry, all the poisoning they do the same thing to animals. Vets get kickbacks. It's just as corrupt on the animal side of medicine. And, we have a dog in our family, Hannah's in-laws, they have the boxers. Tons of skin problems, yeast infections, all sorts of stuff. It happens. Anybody with a dog will know what I'm talking about. Hot spots and stuff. So this miraculous product, they reached out to us because they know you love animals. But
Yes,
it's
I
actually
do.
a fascinating story. This is Code Defense. They started making all natural products for humans. This I actually use. It's a dog thing, I guess, technically, but I've been using this deodorant the last week. It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. So anyway, this guy makes it, right? All natural, accidentally spills it on a horse, and it starts to cure this horse's skin condition. So they get into the horse business. They sell out. Not a lot of horses in the country. So to expand their business, they tested on other animals, all natural, not animal torture testing, but real testing. It started curing dogs' hot spots and skin problems.
Isn't that great?
Well, yeah, it is. But when you really think about it, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, it's just all natural products that you should be having anyway. And all the stuff the vets do with drugs and antibiotics just makes you more sick. So anyway.
It's made in the USA. Coat Defense backs up their product with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can save 15% on your first order at coatdefense.com, and be sure to enter the code Roseanne when you check out. That's coatdefense.com for 15% off and enter the code Roseanne. Give your dog relief and your kids, if they're like my sons, and avoid those expensive vet visits. Coat Defense, something better for your dogs or your kids.
He makes us doubt. He makes us accept bad news so easily. Pessimism comes, it's like breathing air. Optimism, you got to work for it, right? Good habits, you got to work. You got to train. Bad habits, one snort of cocaine, you're hooked.
Mm-hmm.
One bite of of nachos, junk food, you're addicted. We're fine-tuned. We're imbalanced towards everything negative, but that's by design, because striving against those impulses and learning to separate the Satan from ourselves is what takes a lifetime. We may talk about it intellectually, but you can't do it in terms of your consciousness, where it's second nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a constant work.
Yeah.
And one thing the light does, this light of we call Zohar, it illuminates the guy who's been hiding in the corner.
It sure does. Now, I want to talk about some people. It disturbs me when, well, a lot of people, they think Judaism is demonic. What about that? They think the Torah is demonic, and they think the God of the Torah is demonic too. I've been reading that.
Are you talking about Satanists?
I'm just talking about real right-wing, and Marxists think that too.
Okay. So first, let's get some context.
Yes.
What is the Zohar? So before I tell you what the Zohar says, what is it? Moses was on Mount Sinai some 3,400 years ago, where he received the 2 tablets and he received the Torah scroll, and we had revelation on Mount Sinai, and the whole world actually, that moment, achieved immortality. Death was, eradicated from the planet because the light was so bright, no darkness existed.
Yeah, the veil was gone between. They could see the hand of God.
They were in the palm of the hand of God, if you will. So when the Israelites built the golden calf, that's a long story, and there's a lot of codes there. We lost our connection. So someone that's like cutting the cable, the lights go back out. At that moment, when those lights went out, when the Jews built the golden calf and the tablets were shattered, cutting the cord, that was the birth of anti-Semitism, because all nations on earth experienced that immortality. In fact, the Zohar teaches, the Kabbalists teach, the pleasure we experienced 60 times greater than a human orgasm. Literally, that's what it says.
That's how I feel about chocolate right now. So I can.
That's 40 times.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But literally, think double, think triple, right? It would kill you. You couldn't handle it. It's talking sick, and we're not just talking about sex. It's talking about love of children and joy and creativity. It was that type of energy, and then it's taken away. That was when anti-Semitism was born. Jews, Israelites, the other nations all experienced it. I want my light back. Give me my light back. And that DNA moment, that genetic change in our consciousness, went through all the ages, all the millenniums after that moment.
So it is all Jews' fault, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, says the Zohar. Absolutely. But what's the Zohar? So now Moses goes back up because the world was, couldn't exist without the light. We cut the cable with the building of the golden calf and the shattering of the tablets. And so now Moses goes back up the mountain, and he gets a second set of tablets, which is like a pilot light to keep the world alive, to keep the world running in existence, the entire cosmos.
Well, the life energy of the world.
Yes. So he comes down from the mountain, and he's wearing a veil because the light was shining so bright on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And the great medieval...
Some say a mask.
Yeah. It was a mask. It was a veil, a mask, because the light was too bright. And the great medieval, rabbinical mystics explain that that light is called Zohar. And what is that light? He came down, Moses, on Yom Kippur,
Mhm.
the Day of the Atonement.
Mhm.
Okay, the Day of Atonement, and it would now, because when the light was shining, there was no death, there was no time. Time came back into existence. We couldn't access that full radiance of energy, 60 times orgasm. Instead, we're only going to get it once a week on the Sabbath, on Shabbat. And so Moses wrote a Torah scroll, put it in the Ark of the Covenant, put the shattered sparks of the first tablets into the Ark of the Covenant, and then put the second tablets into the Ark of the Covenant. And because of that sin, we had to go through centuries and millennia of transformation for karmic payback of that sin, transform our consciousness. And so Moses, during the giving of the second tablets, he was in a cave. God came and taught Moses the secrets. It's called the oral tradition.
Right.
The spoken secrets that are only transmitted by word of mouth, whereas the Torah was written down. The Torah is the literal story, but the oral tradition are the secrets and the soul. So Torah and Zohar, body and soul, how we do things, why we do things, how things work, why they work that way.
And then Zohar students figured that the day the first tablets were given was 31314 pi.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Amazing.
Is the Zohar part of the Torah? Forgive me,
Yes.
I don't know any
Again,
of this.
so the Torah is the literal,
The Old Testament, right?
the literal word of God.
The 5
the Old
books.
Testament, yeah. And the Zohar are the secrets, which we can't have, we weren't allowed to have because we built the golden calf. Okay, so, and that's why they were hidden. That's why Moses wears the veil to symbolize you're not allowed to have them. The written was put into the ark, and the ark will not be discovered till the Messiah comes. And the Zohar was only transmitted from Moses by word of mouth to Joshua, who then transmitted it to the 70 elders. It's been transmitted, the secrets, the power, which the reason it came down on Yom Kippur, that will atone for all the sins. When the Zohar reaches all of humanity, or at least a critical mass, it's over. The orgasm returns, meaning, the light shines, death comes to end, code word, Messiah.
Mhm.
So there was a chain of transmission throughout the ages, and it was kept secret, so nobody heard of it, because they kept it secret. Duh. Okay,
Yeah, didn't you have to be like a high-level rabbi to read the Zohar? at some
one
point?
chain, yeah,
Right.
one chain, absolutely. But we're talking about 3,400 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, what no one knows is that those two tablets that shattered, they were the conduit, right, that brought the light into this world.
Mom, we're in LA.
Mhm.
You've been sick, but we still keep going. We won a big election, and
Yeah, we did.
and you look great. And I always
you.
tell you that it's always our sponsors that help, but I think in this case it is. Beam Dream
Yeah.
Powder has been helping you sleep, and we always get this wrong, but I want to tell you what's in it: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. So all things that naturally help you sleep. They made this blend of it. I think that's why it works so good, because it's not like horrible pharmaceutical industry stuff. It's just good sleeping powder. So anyway, we
And
keep
it's delicious.
that's the part you guys really need to
I
understand.
know. I need people to know that.
Just buy it and try it if you don't believe us. It's like you really just think of it as like a chocolate shake.
It's a treat
Yeah.
that
Well,
puts you to sleep.
let's tell the people exactly where to get it. I really want to start pushing this stuff out because I love it. I swear by it.
Well, there's never been a better time to finally try Dream. Shop their Black Friday sale and get up to 50% off when you visit shopbeam.com/Roseanne. You've been hearing me rave about Dream, and this is your chance to finally try it for the lowest price of the year. So head over to shopbeam.com/Roseanne for up to 50% off. That's shopbeam.com/Roseanne for up to 50% off.
There weren't 10 commandments. The word was never even commandments. It's 10 utterances on those tablets. it's referring to connecting to 10 dimensions, which separate us, lie between this physical world and the highest spiritual world. We call it like the 99% reality. We live in 1% reality where we only see 1% of the truth. So there were like 10 curtains. Each curtain filters and diminishes the darkness. So by the 10th curtain, we're now in a world of darkness. And this is where we came to do our transformation to earn and merit the return of revelation on Mount Sinai, which means Messiah, where this world is completely transformed beyond human understanding. And we live forever. It's like waking up from a dream. Oh, I get it. And all of our loved ones, past, present, every generation, we won't understand it, but that's what happens. So here's what nobody knows. Those two tablets, when they shattered, they returned as the two temples that stood in Jerusalem. The first temple again was destroyed by the Babylonians because the Jews did not transform. They didn't do their job. And then the second temple was built. Jesus was here. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was here. Rabbi Akiva was here. For Jews, they know who I'm talking about. For Christians, they know who Jesus is. These great souls came in because there was another opportunity for a second revelation. That's why 2,000 years ago, Jerusalem, the temple standing, that's why it's so, epic and momentous in human history. The birth of Christianity, the temple was never
Islam too.
Exactly. And okay. So because there was an opening, we had an opportunity to return the light to all the Gentile nations that lost the light on Mount Sinai. So Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were here to bring it to the Jews. And Joshua, son of Joseph, Yehoshua, son of Yosef, Jesus, came to bring it to the Gentile nations. Remember, there was no Christian nation then. It was all pagans and other religions, pagan being the one word to cover all the Gentiles. And I'm quoting...
Jews.
Who?
The Jews.
No, he's saying the non-Jews.
No, I'm saying Jesus came to bring it to the non-Jews.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, bring it to the Jews, wake them up, transform. We have an opportunity to repair Mount Sinai. Jesus was sent to bring it to the rest of the nations who lost it because of our behavior.
Wait, sorry, this
Please,
is fascinating. They were friends or what, those three rabbis?
Yeah, so let me give you context
the two
there.
were students of Akiva.
Yes, Jesus, Yeshua ben Yosef, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, colleagues, students of the great Rabbi Akiva. Okay.
Who was a student of Hillel.
Yes, all Jews will know who he is. For the rest of you who aren't familiar with Jewish history, by the way, there's no such word as Jewish.
We have a lot of Christian followers too.
Yeah, so he was actually skinned alive by the Roman Empire for trying to bring these secrets to the world. Jesus, as we know, did reveal these secrets to his chosen disciples. But as it says in, I think it's Luke 8, let me just check it. Luke, I should read this because it was Luke 8:10. I'm quoting the New Testament. The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of God has been given to you, his disciples. But to others, said Jesus, I speak in parables, so that though seeing, they may not see. And though they're hearing, they won't understand. The secrets had to be concealed. So Jesus put it in parable because the parable still had a pilot light within it because it's truth. And so that would bring light to the Gentile nations. And by Jesus revealing the secrets to his disciples, that's drawing down more light. Okay.
So he was prophetic. He was a prophet then.
No, he was a teacher.
Okay.
He was a teacher of the secrets. I mean, listen to what the church fathers have to say. The church father, not the Christian world, the pagan world, the Gentile worlds Gentile people that were attracted to Jesus. You know why? Because the Jews would never discuss the secrets. They would only discuss the literal. Today it's opposite. Back then, Christians came, and the early Christians came because Jesus and his disciples, they knew the secrets and they wanted it. But the synagogues and the Jews were only talking about the literal. So it became very religious, very, we do this, don't ask why. And so now it's different. Now, Christianity, it's about just the literal. Take it literal. Don't explore into the secrets. Okay. From my teacher, Rav Berg, and in the Zohar. Oh, okay. Let's just finish the story so we have the context.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus is here trying to bring it to all the nations. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai here to bring it to the nations. The Jews didn't change. And this is in Jewish writings. This is not me. This is not what my teacher told me. It's in the Talmud. It's written down. They were engaged in payoffs and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, murder. Look at the world today. Nothing's changed. Just the light is shining brighter, so we see it more now. Mm-hmm. It's coming out. It's the same thing throughout history. So the Jews were not transforming, and that's why the second temple was destroyed. And they called it hatred for no reason between the Jews. Because beyond. People think the Jews are united.
No one hates the Jews more than the Jews.
Exactly. But they covered that up pretty good, too.
Do. They still do today with the leftist Jews hating on the Jews.
Absolutely.
God, it's sick.
Absolutely. So, because the temple was destroyed, because Rabbi Akiva was skinned alive and other great mystical Jews were also slaughtered, very famous. Rabbi Gamliel was beheaded by the Romans. Rabbi Ishmael, the high priest of the temple, he had the Roman emperor's daughter, thought he was so handsome, she said, preserve his face. So they sliced off his face, and they say it's somewhere today, still entombed in the Vatican somewhere. Okay? Because he was so handsome, again, this is what it says, commentator, women would get wet when he would walk into a room. That's what they said. He was so handsome, Rabbi Ishmael.
I wouldn't, but
even when it was skinned off his head, they still found him
that's
attractive.
why they skinned off his head. She wanted to retain the face because he was so handsome.
Romans are fascinating people, really cool. Yeah.
So they're
kind of worse than the Jews.
Way
actually.
worse. Go on.
Okay, go.
No. So the secrets were in danger of being lost. They killed Jesus. They killed everything. No more secrets. They destroyed the temple. So what happened is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, colleague and beloved friend of Joshua ben Yosef, Jesus, he went into a cave for 13 years, buried himself up to his neck.
With his son,
Rabbi Elazar. Mm-hmm. And by the way,
that's like me and you, Jake, doing this podcast.
By the way, Rabbi Elazar is probably Lazarus in Christianity. Same guy.
I think so, too.
So anyway, so they're in the cave, 13 years. Elijah the prophet and Moses come to him. They download the secrets that Moses had into Rabbi Shimon. Make a long story short, too late. He comes out of the cave and he sits with his colleagues, his disciples, just like Jesus sat with his disciples, reveals the secrets of the Zohar. He instructs one of his closest colleagues, Rabbi Abba, write them all down, and they were buried beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Just like the Ark of the Covenant is buried there with the original tablets, shattered tablets, and the first ever Torah scroll.
Right.
And it was going to serve as a pilot light to keep, again, the world in existence until we merit the arrival of the end of days when the secrets must be revealed to everybody. So that leads us to, so that's the Zohar. Okay. It's the secrets. And that's what Jesus had. And if I can, just for a second, maybe it's a good idea, just to read one section of the Zohar.
Okay, there's 23 volumes,
Yeah, there's 23 volumes. But this will show you that the secret teachings, everything in Christianity, came from the Zohar.
Everything.
Because it's
and then they call it demonic, which I'm like, huh?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And don't let me forget that point, because
it's a big point.
This is all part of the context of why they call it demonic.
Right, okay.
So here's what the Zohar says. How to interpret the grade, the level of consciousness known as the Son. Happy is the portion of the Son who deserves to strive to know his Father's secrets and all the mysteries of his house, like an only child whose father gave him authority over all his secrets. It is to the glory of the Son to have power over everything. He who strives in the Torah to know the Holy One, blessed be he, and all of his mysteries, he is the Son of the Holy One, blessed be he. And in all the heavenly hosts, there is none that will stop him from entering into his Father's presence at any time he needs to. Excuse me. Happy is the portion throughout the worlds. Therefore, he who strives to know his Father is called a son. The Son of the Holy One, blessed be he, is the one who has possession of the secrets. Those secrets were then encoded, we can't go into detail today, but by Peter, into Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And the rabbis say that was to protect and preserve the secrets in Christianity for all the centuries while we have to undergo this process of transformation and payback, karmic payback.
Ma, it's no secret GLP-1s are all the rage. We know it as the term Ozempic is more.
You mean GLB? Are you talking about GLB?
Yeah, no. GLP-1s are amazing for weight loss. It's taken over. Ozempic, everyone knows about it. But it used to be just for celebrities, and you had to be rich, and you also had to take drugs away from people that actually needed it for their diabetes. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
So the market, because we live in free market capitalist country, the market moved and said, you know what, we're going to make these available to the public. You can now get GLP-1s. You can get on a weight loss, start doing shots. You could even do it. I think I'm going to do it because I watched the edit of the show in this shirt, and I went like this. You see bitch titties? I'm going to do it. But
good, I'll do it with you. I have bitch titties too, underneath my breasts.
Through hers, weight loss plans are more affordable with compound GPL-1 injections start at $200 a month for a 12-month subscription. So you can get it for $200 a month. That's pretty amazing.
That's good, right?
That's amazing. This stuff ain't cheap. Well, whenever they find a diet that works, of course, it gets really expensive. There's a lot of fat people in America. So this is really affordable. True. Anyway, tell the people more.
Start your free online visit today at forhers.com/Roseanne. That's forhers.com/Roseanne for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/Roseanne. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescriptions are required. Restrictions apply.
Now, the Zohar says this. Now we'll get to the demonic part. The Jews, small portion of them, who instigated the building of the golden calf, who convinced the rest of the Jews, they returned.
They didn't convince the women, remember?
Right, good point.
The women refused to give their nose rings and their earrings to be fired down. And we were told by Zohar that the souls of those women would reincarnate in Age of Aquarius to help the world move forward.
That's why you're here. Absolutely.
I know it's why
That's what
I'm
the
here.
Rav told. That's why you're here.
No, I know. I wasn't giving up none of my gold for making a cow out in the desert. Hell no.
I hear you. I answer to my wife. I've learned that's the smartest path. So those, they're called in Hebrew Erev Rav, which means the mixed multitude. People who converted to Judaism. God said to Moses, don't bring these people. Moses, with good intentions, said, I want to bring them anyways because we can transform them. But he couldn't. And that was part of our destiny. This is also a process of evolution told by way of story. It was supposed to happen. So he brought the mixed multitude. They mingled with Israel, and they produced all the negative Jews that are in the world throughout history. They're known as Erev Rav. So that's, So
you know what I say it means? Good teachers of bad information.
Nice.
Thank you.
No, well, error of rub teacher. That's nice. So they come in every generation, and their job, and they are doing, I don't want to say good work, their job is to challenge us and test us and be the evil, right?
Mhm.
Okay. But this is a game of life and death. So it's brutal. It's like, it's ruthless. It's not like, oh, we're playing a game and now we have free will. You're going to freaking die. You're going to have your throat slit if you
Go
run
to
afoul.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, run afoul of these rules. So they are in every generation,
Mhm.
and they don't want the light to be spread.
Torah says that they delay the redemption more than all other human beings.
In only one way, by not bringing the secrets that Jesus had and Rabbi Shimon had to the world.
Once
So-
again, Jews' fault.
They don't even know anything about
They know
Judaism.
nothing about Zohar. So you know how they did it? They did a false flag. They did misinformation. They said, oh, Kabbalah, Zohar,
Yeah.
it's demonic.
Yeah, they
It's
did.
black magic. So they poisoned the Christian mind, the Gentile mind, into thinking Zohar and Kabbalah is demonic, and they convinced the Jews, oh, you got to be holy. You can't go to Zohar. You can't touch it unless you're 40 years old.
Yeah.
You've mastered the wisdom of the Talmud. So which was true up to a certain date.
Yeah, but I mean, think about that. But that's really European colonization in the mind.
Mhm.
Think about it, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, it's just
I just having a
fascinating.
million thoughts while you're
Yeah.
talking.
And yeah. So where was I?
You're like
Erev
me.
Rav,
The Erev Rav.
opponent's throat slit.
Yeah. So that's
Their job is they want to kill, they want to destroy the Torah.
yes, and prevent. And how do you destroy a Torah? By taking out its soul, and that's
Yeah,
the Zohar.
That's right.
So they suppressed the Zohar. Something fascinating happened in the Middle Ages. Fascinating. The Knights Templar were born
Mhm.
during the Crusades, and they hooked up with the good Jews in Spain, because in the book of Daniel, which Jesus says, watch for chapter 12 in the end of days. Okay, in chapter 12, verse 3, it says, those who are wise will shine like the Zohar of the firmament. In English, they say brightness. They should be saying splendor. But the word from Daniel in Hebrew and Aramaic is Zohar.
Right.
And it's about resurrection of the dead, the end of days, blah, blah, blah. Daniel says, from 1200 years after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, there'll be a third opening.
Is that now?
No, this is the Middle Ages. A third opening. So what's 1200 years after the destruction of the temple?
What was
2,000 years ago. It takes you to the 13th century.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay? So,
Crusades?
yeah, like from the year 1,200 years later is 1200s, 13th century.
No, I'm saying what happened then?
Oh,
Well,
the
Huh?
crusade. Okay, so to lay
The
down
Crusades. I was right.
to lay down the groundwork to make this happen, it was a few hundred year process. So, should I go? We have time, right? So I can go a
Yeah.
little bit deeper. So Rashi, one of the greatest rabbinical, Talmudic scholars, rabbis, and believe it or not, mystics in the 11th century, met with Godfrey de Bouillon, one of the knights of the Crusaders, and told them where to dig, to go find the Zohar. Because in the 13th century, there was an opening, and all the Christians believed it too. That there was messianic fever in Christianity. Oh, what's his name? I'm getting older. Not Bernard of Clairvaux, who was very important, Saint Bernard, but very famous Christian mystic. There was messianic fever built around this date of the 1200s. So Rashi told Godfrey where in the temple to dig. So the Knights Templar, then they founded the Knights Templar, 50 years later. The Holy Grail legend was born, and
Mhm.
where Rashi was,
Mhm.
where the Knights Templar were, actually the Latin rule which governs all their behavior was written. And they went to Jerusalem and they began excavating, and they found the original Zohar manuscripts and other Zohar-related Kabbalistic texts like the Bahir,
The Bahir, yeah.
right? Okay, the Book of Brightness. And they brought it back to France. And that's when St. Bernard started opening up abbeys, and the Christian monasteries were now working around the clock translating these Aramaic documents into Latin. The whole story of what happened, which I can't go into here, is what birthed the legend of the Holy Grail. You know, people think the Holy Grail is a cup.
hmm
But if you look at the Grail legends, it's the following. It's a cup. It's a severed head on a silver plate. Then you have other symbols like the 5-petaled rose. It's all in the Zohar. The cup is the Kiddush cup. The 5-petaled rose, says the Zohar, you hold it with the 5 fingers like the 5-petaled rose. And scholars realized in this century that there was an anonymous manuscript called the Grand Saint Graal, which gave the first identification of what the Holy Grail truly is. It was written in the 13th century, the time when Wolfram von Eschenbach wrote Parzival, his Grail legend. But the Grand Saint Graal is none of these other Grail stories told you what the Grail was. But the Grand Saint Graal did tell you what it was, and I'm going to quote it. It's a book of astonishing light, and it has secret teachings of Jesus. It's the story told in metaphor of how the Templars found the Zohar and why they have beards, and it's all in the Zohar. And the silver dish with the severed head is there. It's really the head connects to Christianity. This is where the Templars were murdered, because they found the secrets of Golgotha. Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified and resurrected, means the place of the skull.
Right.
Well, if you look in the Catholic Encyclopedia, to this day it says, we don't know why it's called the place of the skull. Nobody can find out why. And there was a theory, about 1,500 years ago, maybe earlier. No, it was even earlier. It's right after Jesus left this world, by Church Father Origen of Alexandria, who says, oh, it's Adam's skull. Because he said he heard it from a Hebrew who gave him a secret tradition. The word Kabbalah is tradition. And he said it's the skull relating to Adam. So the church fathers believed, oh, Golgotha is where Adam's skull is buried. No. Along comes Jerome, St. Jerome, 200-300 years later, and says correctly, no, Adam and Eve are buried in Hebron, in the cave of Machpelah.
Right.
And so are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it's not that Adam. What Adam is it? To this day, they don't know. So if you look in the Catholic Encyclopedia today, it gives you all the theories what Golgotha means, and they say they're either wrong, misguided, can't be proven. It's in the Zohar. Golgotha is the code word, the skull, for Adam Kadmon, not Adam from Adam and Eve. And anybody who studies, a little bit of esotericism, they know Adam Kadmon is known as primordial man. He's a metaphor for the 10 dimensions which our reality exists in. This is why they call the Zohar mysticism. 10 dimensions? Well, now today we know with physics, superstring theory, string theory, tells us there's 10 dimensions. And I don't want to go into more detail than that, but I showed Michio Kaku this, physicist Michio Kaku, and everything the Zohar says about creation and the structure of the universe, he freaked out. I have the quote on video. I interviewed him. To paraphrase what he said was, it's amazing how all the magic numbers of physics that come off our blackboards and our computers, they're all inside the Zohar.
Everyone.
It's all in the Zohar. The Zohar said 2,000 years ago, the earth is round. It revolves on its axis.
Wasn't that why Columbus came? Because he had a Kabbalah teacher that told him to prove it, to prove Zohar.
Abraham Zacuto, who was invited by the Queen to assess the viability of Columbus's trip to the New World, thinking there's only 2 continents. This is in the 15th century. Abraham Zacuto had the Zohar. And he writes about how, the quote, the world is round, 7 continents, not 2, different time zones. There's a place on earth where it's dark for most of the day. And people would appear upside down compared to somebody on the other side of it. Goes into all that. The Zohar, so mysticism. The Zohar said 2,000 years ago, the liver cleans the blood.
Right.
Albert von Haller, who discovered liver function in the 19th century, 2,000 years later, and the Zohar says there are good fats and bad fats. And
the bile of the liver makes heart disease.
And the bile, which is 80% cholesterol, it blocks the arteries, and that bile, that cholesterol, I'm quoting, I got to make sure I quote it right, are bitter drops of death that come from the sword of Satan. They kill human beings, those bitter drops. And what causes it? It's not the corned beef sandwich.
Anger.
It's your behavior. It's Zohar says every time
you excrete a chemical by your behavior. It says that too. And I mean, how close are we to believing that and proving it? I mean, it is proven.
Yes, but
fear makes you, excrete.
Well, gray matter, white matter, there's all sorts of science that backs this up. Well, how you feel is how you are.
Well, when was it written?
This was written 2,000 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but the Earth is flat.
Can you imagine that people who believed it, like me, and you, and the Rob and everybody, and Jesus, and Isaac Newton.
Do we have to do an allegedly or?
No, they all did.
No, I have Newton's handwritings. We'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah, but how everybody probably called all them crazy too.
Absolutely.
Isn't it funny?
Because not to point the finger to lame at people, because you have to realize, no, it's the Satan. He awakens doubt in people. He makes you skeptical, unhealthy skepticism. There's good skepticism when you question everything. By the way, people who are watching this podcast, believe nothing that I said. If you accept it, it's like you're worshiping the golden calf. Oh, we said this. Wow, it must be true.
You got to look it up.
And live it. Test it. Live it. Make your connection to it. Then you'll know. You'll know. No belief.
You only know when you get the reaction in your body. It says when the hairs stand up, when you hear a holy word, that's God telling you, he's reminding you of the covenant with the physical world.
Nice. Yep.
Right?
Beautiful.
Or a really good 60-time orgasm. Well, Ma, we survived the election. It wasn't as scary. We've been pushing these thinking like we were going to be in an underground tunnel shooting at libtards with our AR-15. So far, so good. But we're not out of the woods yet.
So far, so good, because I got sick and I had it on hand.
Yeah.
And it was just so great. You can get your prescription medications, which includes 5 broad-spectrum antibiotics and Nobel Prize-winning ivermectin, and far less than competitors with this discount. Plus, you're covered for 2 years on replenishments. That's fantastic. Ordering is easy. Just a few clicks and the kit's delivered straight to your door. By removing the red tape and breaking free from the sick care model, you're in control of your health. Maha. Order your medical emergency kit now by heading to twc.health/RB and use code RB to save up to $30 off and free shipping. Wow. That's twc.health/RB and use the code RB to save $30 off. Free shipping right now.
So Golgotha is in the Zohar, the Holy Grail, the symbols, everything's in the Zohar. You can explain all of Jesus' teaching. The purple robe that Jesus wore, it's in the Zohar. It says the Son of the Holy One, the Messiah. He wears a purple robe. What Christians who want to see and experience the return of the Messiah, the Zohar is the precondition. When you reach a critical mass of people who have that Zohar, that will bring the Messiah. And it's the precondition. It has to happen. And it wasn't allowed to happen because of the sin of the Jews from 2,000 years ago. But now, here we are talking about it publicly. And let me share, if I can, quickly, the miracles that the Zohar achieves. Because
Yeah, I love this part.
you got to remember something. Jews got out of Egypt. Miracles. Jews defeated the Greeks. Hanukkah. Miracles. Jews defeated the Persian Empire. Purim, the holiday of Purim. Miracle. We are a people of miracles when we merit, earn it. Miracles is the norm. Chaos is what's rare. But we're in an opposite reality because of our, our selfishness, our narcissism, our control by the Satan. So the Zohar says, and the great mystical sages of Judaism say, if you have failed to bring the Messiah by the year 1540, in our calendar, bring it to the world. One thing. Number two, it also says in the year 1840, the physical world will open up the gates of science and wisdom, just like that, because the upper worlds are going to open up and pour wisdom into this earth. Okay, so from 1840 to 1900, and then the early 1900s, the complete transformation of the world, from candlelight to light bulb, from horse and wagon to Elon Musk in the short 100 years, 150 years, sending a rocket to Mars soon. So it opened up. It's in the Zohar. But here's something amazing. I opened up the Zohar about.
How about the first time it was translated and talking about the cosmos, and then Einstein's formula came out 6 years later?
1,000%. As soon as this great Kabbalistic mystic of Judaism, a giant in Torah knowledge, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, did the first ever translation of the Zohar from its original Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke, into Hebrew, and provided a commentary, etc. But an hour and a half later, Einstein comes up with this theory of relativity. The whole theory of relativity and quantum physics is all in the Zohar. That's a whole other class. It's insane. And I have interviewed in depth Nobel Prize winning physicists, top physicists, blah, blah, blah.
You've spoken at NASA.
I spoke at NASA on 2 occasions. Once at Cape Canaveral at the Kennedy Space Center, and once at the Goddard Space Flight Center outside Washington in Maryland. One of the physicists came over to me at the end. He was blown away. He says, I'm amazed. You've blown my mind. How does the Zohar know all this? And they have a hard time processing it. That's why I was invited back a second time. But just to share a quick story. So I flunked science.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I flunked science. I got A's in English and marketing. I flunked science and I'm a right brain guy. I'm lecturing at NASA in a room full of scientists and physicists. But I know Zohar. I know what my teacher taught me. I know truth. So I'm going through all the parallels between Zohar and physics and quantum physics. And one guy at the end, we're taking questions, and one of the scientists says, "You're wrong about this point." Well, that's to do with atoms. I don't want to get into the details because you're wrong. Well, a little sweat beat starts going here. Going, oh shit! I'm on the spot. He's telling me I'm wrong. He's a scientist. I'm a schmuck from Los Angeles. But really on the spot, I'm going, but wait, no, I'm a student of my teacher, and I know I'm right. So I start debating him, and we're going back and forth, and he's kind of a little cocky. And then someone else puts up their hand and says, "Excuse me, yes. Can you guys debate later? We have questions we want about, the Zohar and life." And they started asking some beautiful questions, okay, about life, and we put it aside. I come home from NASA back to LA, and about 3-4 days later, the person who arranged my lecture at the Goddard Space Flight Center calls me and says, "You know that guy who started up with you? He came in and said you were right." So I went, woo! I mean, I knew I was right, but still, I was like, so what's my point? The Zohar is a book for all people. It belongs to the people. The sun shines on everybody. Muslim, Christian, Jew, black, white, gay, straight, whatever you are, the sun shines on you.
Nephilim, clone, what have you.
Exactly. The sun shines on everybody. So, the miracles of the Zohar. Holocaust. First, 1935. The great Kabbalist, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, wrote a letter to all the rabbis in Europe. And I'm quoting, "There's a dark cloud hovering over European Jewry, the likes of which mankind has never seen before." And then he said, "You must spread the Zohar to everybody," which had been the first time in history because it's never been spread. No one even knew what it was. Jews did not know what the Zohar was unless you're part of that lineage. And the rabbis who knew what the Zohar was says, "Nope." And they refused. But in Morocco, the Sephardic Jews in Morocco, now I'm paraphrasing the former deputy mayor of Jerusalem, André Shiraki, from Morocco, who said, the Moroccans set up relay teams 24 hours a day, reading the Aramaic text or scanning it with their eyes, even though they didn't understand a word, to bring down that light that we once had on Mount Sinai. And that light's called Zohar. That's why the Zohar is called the Zohar. Zohar means light. And they did it 24 hours a day in 5 different places in Casablanca. Rommel, Nazi Field Marshal Rommel, probably one of the greatest generals in human history, invades North Africa, says to the king of Morocco, "I want your 250,000 Sephardic Jews now." Morocco has no army to defend itself. The king says, "No, there are no Jews in Morocco. There's only Moroccan citizens." Now, the Nazis were the most powerful army on the face of the planet. They could have marched right over and taken them. Rommel turned around and left. I went to the Holocaust Center, in LA. What's it called? Whatever it's called. And
Museum of Tolerance.
We call it the Museum of Intolerance. The Museum of Tolerance. Spoke with one of the guys there. We don't know. No one could explain why Rommel left. No one could explain why the Jews were not touched. I said, maybe it's the Zohar. No, we didn't talk about Zohar.
Yeah.
The Algerian Jews, the Tunisian Jews, they were studying Zohar. They worshipped the Zohar. They revered the Zohar. They knew it went back to Mount Sinai. They knew it was the secret teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, blah, blah, blah. They weren't touched. It was just the European Jews who were anti-Zohar that went to the gas chambers.
Pro-Talmud. They wasted all their time studying the words of other men instead of the words of
Now, I'm not passing judgment. I'm not
Mount
saying anything. Because
No, but, I felt like I went and studied that one deeply for myself. And
yes.
I understood what the Maharal meant by the Golem of Prague. And I think that's it. And I really studied that one. Did you know this? I want to just say this, that the Zohar was actually the first thing ever printed on the Guggenheim Press. The Gutenberg Press.
Yes.
And the Jews in Venice went nuts and burned it on bonfires. But
Yes.
the Jewish Pope, nobody knows it was a Jewish Pope.
Pope Paul IV.
Yeah. He saved it, which is paradox of paradox. And then they had to smuggle it to Spain. They hid it for 2,000 years in print form.
In 1558, as they were burning Protestant Bibles, the Quran, Torah, Talmud, Pope Paul IV authorized the first ever printing of the Zohar in history. And the rabbis rose up against him saying, no, don't do it, don't do it. But the Kabbalistic, mystical rabbis were saying, those rabbis, by trying to stop the printing of the Zohar, they bring all the death and destruction into this world. So any anti-Semite in this world who hates Jews, he does not know that it's his soul just rejecting those Erev Rav Jews, those few Jews who have brought darkness to the world. And here's the problem. It's a losing system, because when you kill 6 million Jews in World War II, the universe took 70, 80 million non-Jews. It doesn't work. We're killing each other instead of just bringing the light. If we just bring the Zohar to all nations, no one would ever have a problem with anything I'm saying because everybody gets their piece of the pie. You don't give up your belief systems. Everything becomes reconciled, and you see that higher truth warms the hearts of Christians, Muslims, anti-Semites. You know how many ex-Nazis, no baloney, have come back to Kabbalah when they studied it?
I've always said that I think it's a war of Kabbalists, those that are those that are Jesuit and those that are like me and you. But anyway, Billy, tell us about the comet that it tells us about.
Okay, so after October 7th, the massacre at Gaza and the Re'im Music Festival, by the way, if you go to our website,
say it, yeah.
Not numerical, 137.org, ONETHRTY SEVEN, 137.org, you'll see stories of Israelis who had a small version of the Zohar with them to protect them. That's where they carried it during the massacre. And so neighbors, this one woman, all her neighbors were being slaughtered. She was hiding in the closet with the Zohar, and this is her words, lights were coming out of the Aramaic letters. So you can see that video on my site. So after that happened, I'm reading in the Zohar where it says, the name of the section is called In the Time of the Messiah. This is insane. So this is about 6 months ago, okay, 6 months ago. And it says, the time of the Messiah you will know if you see on the 25th day of the Hebrew biblical month called Elul, which is that day, 25th day of Elul, is the day of creation.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the world was created. Time, space, everything. If it falls on a Friday and you see a comet with the naked eye, that is the sign that you're in the time of Messiah. So I go online, I look. The comet of the century is supposed to arrive this year on a Friday, September 27th. I look at the Hebrew calendar. It's the 25th of Elul. Exactly what the Zohar said. And they're calling it the comet of the century. And it says in that section, the hatred towards Israel will grow. There'll be wars being fought in the world. People will lose faith because things are so chaotic and ridiculous and off the rails. But there will come a new ruler of the nation of Edom. Now, Kabbalistically, and I think every rabbi in the world agrees with this, Edom is America, the Roman Western Christianized world. That's right. Edom.
What
right?
is Edom translate?
Edom comes from the Torah. Edom. It's a land. It's a land. Yeah, and we always refer to the Romans. Yeah, but then Roman culture, when Columbus with the Zohar found America, then Edom moved to America and blah, blah, blah. America is a very, very, very important, landmark in this cosmic drama that's unfolding.
So it's not Rome, Italy, or...
No, it used to be. Okay, used to be. And it still has a connection to Rome, okay. Peter's buried in Rome. Peter was a Kabbalist. Another story. So it says the leader of Edom, one leader will die, which could be the death of a presidency. Biden goes down, as the presidency, and a haughty, arrogant leader will rise to power, and he's a great king, and he will wage war against the other kings and overpower them all with his haughty, bold disposition.
Hello.
It's not Kamala, right?
It's Trump.
I'm kidding.
Haha. Did they say he was orange or anything?
The red hat?
Does it say?
Yes.
Doesn't it say he's orange?
Does it really say he's orange?
Because Edom
is orange.
Is reddish orange. It connects to Esav, who was born red. And the color red has orange in it. I mean, scientifically. So it's funny, they call Trump Orange Man, with the, okay, it's cute.
So I'm excited about Trump winning, and you're telling me it's the end times.
It's
Well, I don't do
what does it mean by end times? Go ahead, I'm giving you that.
end times means there's an opening in the cosmos. The comet was a sign, but there's been openings in the past.
But what was the name of the comet?
Oh, Atlas. Look up Atlas. Just put Google. It's a Chinese name because China is the first one to find it, and then someone in South America found it. So I think South Africa. So an observatory in South Africa found it. The Chinese found it. I couldn't pronounce the name if you gave me $1 million. So even online, they can't pronounce it. They call it Atlas 3. So just look up September 27th, Atlas 3. You'll see the comet. People who, follow me online sent me pictures that they took, from their porch. Amazing. So what was your question about that?
We're in the age of Mashiach or the end times? Or
Yes.
End times.
So
what does
we're
it
in the
mean?
end times.
That's scary,
Okay,
right? End
so
times is bad, right? Or no?
Yeah. So here's another quote from the Zohar. The Zohar and these great rabbis who lived in the 1700s, who were mystics. When I say mystic, I mean they were deeply versed in the Zohar. See, I'd rather just call them scientists or physicists, spiritual physicists.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Mathematicians.
because it's mystic. It's,
But I mean,
it's science.
students of Zohar have to be mathematicians.
Yes, and scientists.
Right.
Absolutely. So it says, without going to the calculations how they do it, it's a mind blower. The year 2020, which is the year 5780 in the biblical Hebrew calendar, the Torah calendar, will see a huge, profound transformation, intensification of divine energy into this world, which will create both blessing and chaos, depending upon the people. Those that are transforming, it's blessing. Those that are not transforming, that are doubling down on their narcissism, it's going to be chaos. And then, and what happened in 2020?
They cheated and stole the election.
COVID,
Mm-hmm.
the election of
January
Trump
6th.
goes down. All that happened. The world became polarized, and the Zohar says it's going to be a time called Oy and Ashrei. Oy means oh boy, and Ashrei means praiseworthy. Chaos and blessing will exist side by side.
It's happening now.
Some people will see it, some people won't. And we all have free will, and we have no right to try and convince anybody else anyways. Just share your light. And don't gloat when they're suffering, and you got to share because you don't know their personal.
Well, I did gloat when Jimmy Kimmel cried. I did. That was evil. I'm sorry.
I'm
Lord.
gloating. I don't care what you say, Billy. I'm not taking. Don't
Anyways,
take that away from me.
that really, okay, no, whatever. So it's all relative,
right?
Yeah.
It's all
For me, it's
relative.
the 10th or the first level.
Yeah,
the gloating.
it's all
High level.
relative. So we're in that time now, and time is going to shrink, and it's going to by speeding up. And you're going to notice, even the kids are noticing it now. At least my kids are, and my grandkids. It's speeding up. Time is going quicker because we're getting closer to the end.
So cause and effect are getting closer,
Yes,
right?
cause and effect. So it used to be, why was time created to begin with? And I spoke to physicist Brian Greene. I said, can you define time? He said, no. He said, no scientist can define time. I said, I'll tell you what time is according to the Zohar, not me. Time is the distance between cause and effect. What does that mean? You do an action, and there has to be a reaction. Cause and effect. Why does time exist? Why did God do that? If you're training a puppy, house training a puppy, and the puppy, makes an accident on the carpet, and you take a little newspaper and you tap the, on the rear, you put him in timeout, the puppy, by getting that instant feedback, transforms its behavior. We're not dogs.
We're not that smart.
We are dogs, but we can't have instant feedback or we'll change our behavior. But then it's not going to be free will. It's just because of the instant feedback. It's still golden calf consciousness. Something else is doing it for us. Something else is controlling my behavior. So we get away with our crimes. We get away with our sins because each time we do something negative, time is injected to the cause and effect process to give you the space I hate this word because it sounds religious, but that's the word. I'll tell you what it means in a minute. If you repent, which really means if you go inside and transform
Yeah.
the trait that caused you to do that sin in the first place. It's not intellectual, it's internal surgery.
Then you can change the effect, right?
Yes. Yes. And then you can avoid the karmic payback. You can avoid the boomerang. So every time you scream, you put out a boomerang, it's going to come back and get you. And so we think the world is chaotic because then chaos, the karmic payback comes out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. And we think, oh my God, this world is chaotic. Negative people get away with murder and good people get punished right away. The good people get punished right away. It's because they earned that merit. When you evolve enough, you're saying, I don't want free will. I've evolved enough. I want the blessings. I take away my free will. Free will is a bitch.
Yeah, no kidding. I
It hurts.
agree. Yeah, it's ego.
But we need it because otherwise you don't own it. You got to own it. You've got to do the work. And that was the role of the Jews. The Zohar does it really nicely. The Zohar says, humanity is one body. The body of humanity, it's one body. Each organ in the body represents another nation. The Jews are the heart. Our job, what's the job of the heart? And it's not being metaphorical. The body is a microcosm of the cosmos.
Pump blood.
Pump the blood, pump the light. The light we had on Mount Sinai, the light of God, the light called Zohar. Pump it to the other nations. If the other nations are lacking light, like if the foot lacks blood, gangrene can set in. Anti-Semitism is metaphysical gangrene. That's what it is. A heart attack in other nations, that's anti-Semitism. You're not giving them enough blood. You don't give them the light, they'll take your land. You don't give them the light, they'll take your life. Jew, Israelite, give me my light. That light is the soul of the Torah, what was given on Mount Sinai, called Zohar. And the wisdom is not wisdom, it's the light itself. God's word is the light. The Zohar there's no difference. So we kind of get confused because the Satan in our head makes it difficult to really grasp these ideas. And that's
Well, people aren't that smart, so I think he just reverses everything.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's just a reversal.
That's all it is.
The perverse reverse.
That's all it is. It's genius what you just said because you can go one step further. We reverse it with our consciousness.
Yeah, we do.
Because if we behave opposite of the force that we call God, which God is called the cause of all causes, if someone yells at me and I get mad, who's the cause of my anger?
You.
No, that person. I let him control me. If I stop the anger, then I'm in control.
Yeah, because the real fight here is self-mastery.
That's it.
Of our stupid emotions.
That's it.
That come from the negative, from the opponent.
That's it.
And instead of giving in and raising your voice and throwing a fit, which shows you're possessed, take a deep breath and save your karma.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
How easy should that be?
That's it.
But it ain't.
Because it's a ruthless game. So Satan, listen, the heavier the weight, if you're doing, weightlifting, the more resistance, the stronger the muscle. So to build our soul muscle, the Satan has to be ruthless. And he's actually doing, according to the Zohar, good work.
Yeah.
Because without him, we cannot
God
achieve.
created him.
Yeah.
And in the other world, he's the prosecuting attorney.
Yeah, he plays all roles.
Yeah.
He incites your reaction. He triggers you.
Then he laughs at you.
Then he laughs at you. Then he accuses you in the upper court, wins his decree, and then he's the angel of death. It's one person. It's one force.
Yeah.
He's all three.
He rules death.
Once you achieve a critical mass of negative actions, you're dead.
That's exactly right. Well, I feel like we've given people a lot to digest here, but I did tell people I was going to start talking about Jesus and what I've learned, and I know you've learned about too. And also, a lot of it is incendiary, is going to make everybody mad, but, truth makes people mad.
Yeah.
But
no, truth makes the Satan mad.
Oh, yeah, truth
people
makes
are good.
the Satan mad.
People are all good. They just have to overcome that negative force.
What's going
But-
to make people mad?
Huh?
What's going to make people mad? What are you going to
Truth.
say? But what specifically are you
Truth
talking
makes Satan mad. I should have said it that way. So, put on the full armor of God, right? And I'm thanking you so much. I'm going to have to watch this show myself about 50 times to even.
about? Yeah, we covered a lot.
We went pretty high.
Were you
We
gonna-
went up. We didn't go to Bina yet, but we did touch the heart. So I want you to come back and then we'll really talk about the heart and Bina.
Sure.
Two things. You mentioned Jesus a couple times. Most of our listeners are Christian, and I think this is kind of cool. Like, we're not saying it's true or not. This is your
No, the Zohar says. I'm
the
just
Zohar.
I'm just quoting the Zohar.
Right, you're quoting the Zohar. So you said Yeshua or Joshua or something. So can you tell me a little bit more who Jesus is through the eyes of a Kabbalist? Because I find that fascinating. And then my second thing was going to be the end times. What does that mean?
Okay, so I'll tell you what the Kabbalists say about Jesus.
Okay.
So there's one Kabbalist from the 1700s, one of the most prolific. And when I say Kabbalists for our Christian friends, they're rabbis.
Right.
They're called Kabbalists, because the word Kabbalah means to receive. They receive the secrets.
But they're normal, everyday rabbis.
Yes. Anything negative that you heard about Kabbalah, it's from those Erev Rav
Right.
who are just doing their job to try and keep the secrets away from you. Okay.
So they're just high-level rabbis,
Yeah.
basically. Okay.
So the one Kabbalist named Rabbi Moses David Valley from Italy,
Mhm.
mid to late 1700s, wrote a manuscript that the Jews were too afraid to publish. And he's known as one of the most profound commentators on the Torah in history. It's written like a gazillion words commentaries.
Okay.
But there's one manuscript they didn't want to, publish. So I got a copy of it from the Jewish Theological Seminary.
Mhm.
And bottom line, here's what he says. Jesus was the Messiah of his generation.
Okay.
Messiah, son of Joseph. Because in Judaism, there's two Messiahs. There's the Messiah, son of Joseph, and the Messiah, son of David. And the Messiah, son of Joseph, always comes first to wage war, spiritual war. Wake up the people. Repent. Look within. Stop with your negative behavior. You can bring Messiah Messiah, son of David, which means immortality, Mount Sinai, orgasm in every part of your life, like true bliss, real bliss.
Okay.
And he always dies. If the Jews don't transform, the Messiah, son of Joseph, dies.
Okay.
Rabbi Moses David Valley says that they made up terrible lies about this real teachings of Jesus. And some of those lies are repugnant. And that when we fix those corrections, when we correct those lies, the Jews, but for all people, that's the pathway to bringing back the Messiah.
Okay.
You must share this wisdom.
Okay. So he was okay. And then the next thing, end days. What does that look like? Just wrap that up for me. Because I've read the end days, like the apocalypse, we're going to burn in a lake of fire, and then there's also talk about immortality.
I think it's the end of Rome.
Yeah. What does it mean to you guys? Because
Well, you want the end of Rome? Rome is inside the Jew. When the Jews get rid of the negative Rome and Gentile within them, then the Gentiles in Rome and the world will become great, loving people.
Yeah.
From our perspective, they got their own work to do, but from our perspective, there's no pointing the finger of blame. Okay? Now, something else from that section of Zohar that deals with the comet. It says, so this haughty king, this haughty leader will rise to power in Edom, in the Western Christian world, America, and every rabbi in the world would say America is Edom. And now Trump's been elected president, and it says the hatred for Israel will grow, and then there will be a cave, but this leader will overpower them all. And when he overpowers them, it will pave the way for Messiah, son of David, to return. Okay? It's there. But one of the steps, it says, a cave will be unearthed in the land of Israel, and it will be burning with fire, and that fire will burn the world. Sounds like a nuke,
it's
right?
scary. Yeah.
Scary. But the Zohar always speaks in double meaning. It can happen spiritually, or if you don't make that spiritual transformation, it's going to happen physically. So that fire that burns the world can be the truth of Zohar. So Christians who are maybe, you know, uh, 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 really excited by what they heard today, that's the fire of truth burning. Some people who may be angry, that's the fire of truth burning. We can get there by just transforming our consciousness. Don't overreact to, these truths. Learn more, investigate more, because all it's really saying is each of us has to go into the internal ego, because it's not who we are. We just don't know that. We think we know, but we don't. And transform a little bit and burn a little candle. And then your flame will radiate automatically to other people. Don't preach, don't convince, don't try and change other people's minds. Instead,
It's that song, "This Little Light of Mine,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it shine."
Who said it? Was it Gandhi? Be the change you want to see. That's the truth. That's something about, I don't talk politics.
You
But-
can move the mic back if you're talking to her.
Okay,
now.
yeah,
Just-
I'm
I
getting a
can see
sore
it's in
neck.
your
No
way.
big deal.
Just slide it over here. Don't worry about it.
Okay, no big deal.
It's
I'll
too
get a
bad.
massage later. I'm only going to say this because it's a beautiful understanding of the Zohar and what it teaches, and the Torah and Talmud, that you can only share what you have, right? So if you need $20 and I only have $1 bill, I can't share with you. Trump's America First policy is just a reflection of that. America can't share with the world until America builds up its success, so it has something to share.
Right.
And the Zohar and the Talmud teach every person has a boundary that you must respect, and you must have borders. And your liver can't morph into your heart, and your heart can't morph into your lungs, or you're going to die. So boundaries are a critical, and respect of boundaries is a critical part of the Torah. And every person, they say, has an 18-inch aura. This is from Kabbalah, or aura around them that you must respect. So don't get into people's faces. And if you disagree, everybody knows this, learn to agree to disagree, not out of morals. There's no morals in the Zohar. It's about enlightened greed. Stupid greed is stupid because it doesn't work. You get temporary pleasure, then you pay for it. Enlightened greed means you're nourishing your soul. So you change out of enlightened greed. I want more. I'm not going to react and piss off my enemy because it's only going to give me temporary satisfaction for a month, a year, even 20 years. But then you're going to pay for it at some point. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to resist my own anger, because if we reach a critical mass of people who do it, we live forever. Death will come to an end.
Yes.
The world expands, infinite resources. We all win. We don't realize we're all teammates.
It says that the fundamental change is when we begin to look for the good in other people instead of the bad.
That's the most profound thing, believe it or not, in my humble opinion, that was said today, because our consciousness creates reality. So when you judge somebody and you look for the bad, you will find it. Not only that, you will strengthen their bad. And that's going to be your reality.
And why you do that is because you're bad.
You project.
Yeah, you project onto other people. Like, that's one thing I love learning in Kabbalah, is that whenever you have the urge to call another person out, stop and realize what you're doing is you're calling out what you see in somebody else that you, because of your ego, can't see in yourself. You're pinpointing what's wrong, but in the wrong person.
The
I'm
most
sorry,
powerful thing said today.
I'm still gloating on libtards. I don't care what either of you say.
Well,
can't.
I know that, like, the job of the Satan also is he brings more people to God than anybody else, because when they fall so low because of him, because of listening to him and being one of his minions, they often turn to God at their lowest point. And I think that's his real purpose, why God created him. But you have a fundamental change in a human being when they fall so low. So I'm hoping that for the Democrats, that or for not just the Democrats, because I know there's good Democrat, good people, but for these people who are just so full of hate, that they would just maybe pause a minute and think about replacing that with empathy and compassion and love, because their world will definitely change and become better.
So you know what the end of days means to that point? Through the dissemination of this divine supernal wisdom, this light called Zohar, we could get there without having to suffer.
Without
We
having
don't
to
have to
suffer.
suffer now. We've suffered enough. We've met the karmic requirement to where we worked hard enough, we've suffered enough, or we changed enough to get there, which is the only reason why after 2,000 years, the Zohar, we're talking about it publicly for the first time around the world.
Yeah.
These secrets of Jesus,
Yeah.
the secret teaching. We can get there without suffering. So it used to be people only change. This is from a dear friend of mine who taught me this. People usually change when the pain of not changing
Yeah,
becomes greater than the pain of changing.
Yeah.
that's right.
That's well said.
We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to do that.
It's just like turning on the light. It's that simple.
It's that
Just
simple.
the change to look for the good rather than the bad. That's the change.
Can you give me one example of a Jesus teaching that was born in
That
the
was
Zohar?
what?
That was from the Zohar.
All of it.
All
Give
of
me
it.
one. Just for
Turn
our
the
Christian
other
friends.
cheek. It's all about not reacting.
Mhm.
Turn the other cheek, because if you react and you hit them back,
Pray for your enemies.
you're fighting darkness with darkness. You're gonna, even if you're right, the worst thing you can want to do is be right for all the right reasons. Rav Berg used to teach. We lose it on somebody. And what'd you just say after turn the cheek? What'd you say? Oh yeah, love your enemy. We know it intellectually.
Pray for the captives to be set free from
Yes.
Satan.
That's all Zohar. All of that is
Mhm.
Zohar. And it's
Very
not about
cool.
morals.
Love your
'cause it
neighbor as
works.
yourself.
Yeah, I can't do that, but I love it.
Feeding, what was it, 300 with one fish and one loaf is Kabbalah.
The next thing we need to talk about
What?
in another session,
Yeah, please come back.
because the Zohar talks about quantum physics,
Right.
relativity, heart disease, everything. What's next now? It's not a coincidence that Silicon Valley and others are looking for it. It holds the secret to achieving biological immortality.
No, I know.
How we end
I
up.
remember the Rob telling me, how's this for funny? They found the gene for immortality inside the cancer cell.
Of course.
I remember
That's
him
pure
saying
Kabbalah.
that.
It's pure Zohar.
Wow, you have to come back.
But there's more. There's secrets. We have it all. With all of our help, just being a little bit more kinder to people and resist that ego. And we're talking about in your home. Instead of yelling at your spouse, tone it down a little bit. You're moving galaxies in the cosmos.
Yeah, you are.
We're not here to change the world. We're here to change
Resisting-
ourselves,
We're here
and
to
that
change
changes the
ourselves.
world.
Every
Okay.
time you resist the satanic the satanic opponent inside of you, every time you resist it, you make light stronger. So we all have a job to do, just like American people made the change, not just Trump, but the American people. Everybody did what they could do, and Trump's doing what he can do. We all got to do what we can do, and that's the same thing. It's blockchain. I love you, and I'm so glad to have you today. And like I say, watch this like me 400 or 500 times, because there is enough nourishment in this podcast to feed you for a long time, your soul.
It's also good for our viewer count if you do watch it 500 times.
And, I love you all, and,
God bless.
onward and upward.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to put your website and all that stuff.
Okay.
Your courses are mind-boggling.
Yeah, send me all that stuff to put in the description, or tell people now before I cancel the.
Okay, so
Where do they go?
we're going to be revamping it to make it much simpler, because I did a course revealing a lot of the secrets of Jesus and Zohar. It's called Unredacting Jesus, but it's 13 hours.
This is what
But
I
I
wanted to talk
did that because I wanted a record of everything. Now we're going to come back and make bite-sized, short, quick, fun ways to get all this wisdom so we can really disseminate it.
I have to say, I highly recommend that. I've actually listened to a few of them. This is why I kept bringing up Jesus, because I know where you go. It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
Highly recommend people go. And I want to have you back and talk about it because it's my favorite subject.
So if you want to take that course, you can go to billyphillips.com, 2 L's in Phillips, and you'll see Unredacting Jesus. You'll see my NASA lectures, but we turned it into a course.
You'll
Yeah.
see Golgotha, the secrets.
You'll see everything's in there. But the 137.org website is just as is more important because we're going to be making the Zohar with the secrets of Jesus in a prologue.
Wow.
In the beginning, free for nations around the world.
Love it.
And we'll make a little bit later a little mini version as well, which will have only the passages of the Zohar to do with the Messiah and stuff related to Christianity. So people have a mini version because the miracles that Zohar has generated, we need to do a whole, podcast on the miracles.
Yeah, we'll talk next time. We'll talk about the Zohar being taken to Chernobyl and what happened.
Didn't
Yeah.
Trump supposedly have it when he was shot?
Yeah,
so,
we gave it
Yeah,
to him.
so let me share this.
Okay.
Let's
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
that'd be
Marla
great.
Maples gave Donald Trump one of the
She's a student too.
one of the mini Zohars, which happened to quote here, and about I don't know, maybe 2-3 months before the assassination attempt, because some of the Kabbalistic mystics were saying that it's showing there's a potential of assassination. So they put with the Zohar.
Oh, they warned Trump.
Yeah,
Wow.
Marla gave it to him, and Donald Trump says, "I'm keeping this one with me," and they gave it to a security detail around him. And so then came the assassination attempt. Then came the golf course. So he had the Zohar.
Oh, he did have it on him.
I don't know if he had it on him at that moment, but he had to make the connection.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's
He might have had it with him, but I can't.
Because
I
we all
can't say
know
for sure.
it was a miraculous head turn.
We're getting one on his plane. I told him Marla's going to work on getting one on his plane.
Awesome.
We surrounded. No, do we have time for a story?
Yeah.
So when you make a connection to the Zohar, the connection's made. It lasts forever.
Mhm.
Some people just make one connection. Some people should read it every day. Most people should read it every day or meditate on it. Share it, pass it around to people. It is the light. It's not a book. So one day, Marla Maples is at my house with Tiffany, and Donald Trump and Melania come to pick up Tiffany. And what happened about a week prior to that, did I ever tell you this story?
I don't think so.
A guy that Marla was dating at the time, wonderful, amazing guy, gave a mini Zohar to a prince in the Middle East.
I know that's yeah.
And he took it. And then the Rav, maybe weeks later, was saying, we need to get Zohars in some country. I'm not allowed to say, in the Middle East. But we can't ship them from Israel because they won't accept the shipment, right? It's going to be too controversial going to a Muslim country. So Marla's boyfriend said, I have a friend, this prince, I'm going to say his name, and he can get it into Bahrain. He's friends with the general there. So he did. The Zohars were shipped to Bahrain. Now, Saturday night, Marla comes over with her boyfriend and Tiffany. Tiffany was good friends with my daughter. And we're all hanging out in the house. And then Donald Trump comes up to pick up Tiffany. At the same time, the prince calls and says, Bahrain's going to burn the Zohars. They're freaking out. They see it's Hebrew writing, blah, blah, blah. They're freaking out. I'm going to ship them away, blah, blah. And so we're now fighting with the prince. You can't burn them. They're sacred, blah, blah, blah. It even explains Islam in the Zohar and blah, 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 and this whole thing. And Trump pulls up. I go outside. I have a nice conversation for about 15 minutes. That's when I saw, he talks to everybody.
Yeah. And
he's curious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was like, this is way before the election, before 2016. This is probably around 2012, if I'm not mistaken, or 2013. Well, what a great freaking guy! And I once spoke to him on the phone, but with Marla, but something else. But you couldn't really tell. Just a great guy. Zero ego in terms of uppity. I'm Donald Trump. He wants to talk like he's on you, like amazing. Anyways, so that happens, and I believe another friend of mine already gave him the Zohar in New York at Trump Tower.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so he had one at home. He's at my house as we're dealing with Bahrain. We make the connection, and then he goes and wins the election. And Marla broke up with his boyfriend years ago. Years went by, and then the first peace treaty with the Abraham Accords was Bahrain. And so Marla calls me, and I haven't spoken to her for maybe about 6 months at that point, and her boyfriend a couple of years. They all called me that day. Did you see that? We did it. The Zohar's in Bahrain. So the Zohar, and I can tell you stories like we went to Chernobyl. We surrounded the most toxic lake in Chernobyl, Lake Globokaya, under the auspices of the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences, blah, blah, blah. We lowered the levels of strontium-90 and cesium-137 by 20%, 30%, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. I had a meeting with Bill Clinton, showing him the results and the report the Academy of Sciences did, blah, blah, blah. Clinton was already out of office, but he was going to help us. He was going to hook us up with some more nuclear power companies. Karen Berg, the wife of my teacher and the true spiritual giant herself, says, I always said to the Rav, you're messing too close with Satan with this nuclear stuff, and it's not time yet, blah, blah, blah. The levels fell, the levels dropped. We were doing another experiment in Europe at one of the largest nuclear facilities in Europe, one in Florida, and the Rav had a stroke. And the Rav literally, I'll go into it now another time, but warned me ahead of time about the stroke. I just didn't know until it happened that he's got to go fight him on another level.
I remember him saying that too.
We'll see. I got the chills. Another for later. But what I knew was Chernobyl was going to turn around. Sure enough, 2 years later, 3 years later, National Geographic publishes a study.
I saw that. Yeah, it was
Life
amazing.
is blooming in Chernobyl. They don't know why. Life is thriving. Maybe nuclear radiation's not so bad after all. Satan comes in, right? So the University of Texas, no one can explain it. We went to the ocean after the Deep Horizon accident. We went down there with Zohars and special meditations. 2 days later, the oil disappeared. They don't know how it disappeared. Google it, Deep Horizon. But now it's now how many years later? They're saying, oh, the bacteria ate it up because they can't even find it at the bottom of the sea. No, what the Zohar does is it disassembles its atoms, and just rearranges it to something else.
It's like the intelligence of God.
Yeah. So some people aren't ready to handle it. But we could, my mother, inoperable kidney cancer, and they couldn't stand that I was involved in Kabbalah, my family at first, right? And so, not that they knew what Kabbalah was. We grew up as secular Jews. So I knew nothing growing up, And when I went to Hebrew school and asked questions, I never got an answer. Why do we do this? Because it's written. And why do we do that? Because it's written. I said, fuck it. I'm not interested. I went to science books and I found answers, but then I saw even the physicists are full of ego. They're leaving God out of the equation. Why? Just be open and honest. Okay. But anyways, I forgot what I was going to say.
God and science conversion?
No.
Oh, my mother.
Cancer.
My
Your
mother. So when she gets cancer, I said, now will you take the Zohar? She took it. She goes back to the doctor. She's crying. She calls me on the phone crying. Don't tell your sisters that I told you this, but he said it was a miracle. It was a miracle. It's gone. It's gone. You know how many miracle stories?
We saw a lot of it. We saw a lot of it go on, didn't we?
Oh.
We'll have to have you back.
But don't believe.
No.
Have your own experience with the Zohar, and then write in your miracle stories.
Just scan the letters. You don't have to know what it says.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna talk more about this because you need to know, and this is the time.
Yeah.
So love you. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you.
Love you both.
So you see